What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. All right, today, one of the main themes I want to get into is that there is so many times in sports, and I think sports can reflect life, and it's very interesting that, a lot of times it has nothing to do with the championship or the title. I think, winning has always been considered the number one thing, or you got to win the championship, you got to win the title. That's how you get remembered. I'm going to call it the 10-cup rule, and basically my point is that sometimes stars and stories can supersede who actually wins the whole thing. Sometimes there are things that happen in sports that we really watch that really change it forever, that are completely outside of the who wins the title spectrum. So I'm going to call that the 10-cup rule, and there are two events, one in NCAA and one in boxing, actually, that I think are actually going to fall into that category. But it is about to be March Madness as I'm recording. It's about to get underway, so let's just pop up the first picture here. For all of you out there, even though I tried to tell you last week, your brackets are probably, if it's not gone already, if you're just joining me right now, you are most likely at least within the first day, and your bracket's probably busted. And I just want to let you know, look at me, come here. It's okay. You still know basketball. I know you put a lot of heart and research into it, and you did all this work, and you did all these things, and it's not your fault. It's all okay. You're still a smart man. You're still a good sports fan. It is just the most impossibly so-called possible thing to do. And it's funny because, as I did my last one, and I'm scrolling through the TikToks and stuff, I get reminded, because I've kind of faded out of even trying to do the 1 in 9.2 quintillion, but the idea, and I know what happened to a lot of you and why you're so upset that your bracket's already busted. You got fooled by the fake smarty pants. I forgot how much this is fake smarty pants season, and they're just going to wow you with these numbers and these, these words and algorithms. They're going to say things like the Ken Palm system or Haslametrics, and they're going to make you like, oh my God, I really must have the inside scoop, and I'm going to have the thing that makes me, number one in my pool, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I mean, while you're at it, go ahead and email back that Nigerian prince, that $5,000. You'll probably get that 10 million back to you. Go ahead and follow that financial advisor that says, I can give you 50% returns. This isn't a pyramid scheme. Don't worry about it. It's hard. I get it. They come at you and they throw, again, the Ken Palm and the Haslametrics, and I got the program and I got the algorithm. The fake smarty pants fooled you into thinking I can control chaos. I can predict the unpredictable. And it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault, especially if you're new to this. As someone, though, I was just chuckling watching like, God, I forgot how many people think that they know everything about everything until today shows up. And like I said, most of you are coming on now with your bracket completely busted. It's completely gone, and you're already upset. So let me just remind you before I get into some more different, takes and different theories that are going to kind of evolve in another direction here, of just how much this happens. Every single year, people put in all this work and all this math and all this nerd stuff, and they get all excited like JoJo the Indian Boy with a pretty new pet. Shout out to Tommy Boy. And then they find out that their bracket is busted almost immediately. Just last year, just last season, just to give you an idea, 2023 ESPN Tournament Challenge bracket had over 20 million brackets submitted. 20 million, right? After the first day, and only 16 games. Do you know how many brackets were left? 658. I'm going to give you that math one more time. And just the math in general. Go ahead and pop up the second one here. The 1 in 9.2 quintillion, just so you can try to understand just the illogical amount of numbers. I will put it into real-world calculations and real-world explanation. Just last season, for people upset about your bracket being busted, there were 20 million, over 20 million actually submitted on the ESPN bracket. After the first day, after just 16 games, there was 658 left. There was 96% of all the 20 million were completely busted after just 4 games played out of a possible 67, because number 2 Arizona lost to Princeton, number 1 Purdue lost to 16 Farley freaking Dickinson, and between those, that was like 40-something% of most people's Final Fours were Purdue and Arizona. They lost the first day. They lost in the first 4 games. 96% of brackets were busted in the first 4 games. So if you're coming here and you're upset and you're crying and you want to bitch and you want to go, write the guy, it's like, you told me you're Ken Palm and your algorithm is going to promise me da-da-da-da. You can't. It's dumb. It's the Nigerian prince sending you, $75,000. It's the financial, it's horseshit. It's all horseshit. It's chaos. It's nonsense. This is a bunch of kids in one-and-done games, and besides the addition of the, the ever popularity and the rising of three-point shot, besides the fact that you have the one-and-dones versus the seniors, besides the fact that, there's the transfer portal now, and there's a lot of people we really don't know a lot about that are joining new teams. You throw all that together with the chaos of one-and-done in a bracket format with 18 and 19-year-old kids mostly coming in with all the lights on them for the first time ever in their entire lives. It is impossible. It is absolutely impossible, even though there's still statistically a 1 in 9.2 quintillion chance of getting this done. And even people that get mad at the 1.92 quintillion will try to say, oh, well, it's not really 50-50. That's based on if every game was 50-50. Just last year, 15 lost to a 2. Just last year, 16 lost to a 1. It's happened twice now in the last 5 years that a 16 is lost to 1. So it's getting closer and closer to where every one of those 67 games you were supposed to predict correctly is just a coin flip. It's luck. It's nonsense. There's no way to actually predict what's going on, and you're probably already done, and you're probably already busted, and I know some of you are going to feel really like, I spent a good 3 days researching. You shouldn't have. You should have just picked your favorite color. You should have picked your mascot. Just to give you an idea to kind of finally hammer this home, because I want to move on to some other subjects here. This is how goofy the actual, why you should take no credit or no failure in not being able to predict the bracket. Do y'all know the story of the closest guy to ever actually predict a bracket? And even then, he only got up to 49 of 67 games. 2019, this guy, go ahead and pop this video up for me, Greg Nigel. 45-year-old neurophysicist, not a basketball player, not a former athlete, not a, some sort of algorithm analyst, not some genius. He was just some 45-year-old neurophysicist who worked with disabled vets and in his off time liked to do brackets. He made a lot of brackets, and he actually got the closest at 49 out of 67 games predicted straight on correctly. And do you know how he did it? He can't tell you. He doesn't remember. He's on the Today Show. Everyone's trying to give him all this information. Later, he finally revealed, dude, I was half asleep, I was sick, and I was hopped up on cold medicine. I was invited to an NCAA bracket. I don't remember doing the goddamn thing. I went back to bed. Next thing I know, NCAA is calling me 3 days later, telling me I had predicted 49 games correctly, and I had had the best streak ever in bracketology history. That guy, who had nothing to know about basketball, nothing that really knew what he was doing, out of the multiple brackets he picked, the one he got right, he didn't remember doing. He was hopped up on cold medicine. He got reminded 3 days later, hey, you should check your bracket. You got to 49 games correctly. And, oh, by the way, after those 49 games with still 67 left, or not 67 left, but 67 total he had to get correctly, after that happened, his whole bracket went to shit. He only got one of the final 4 right. He got none of the title games right, ended up only getting 53 correct. That is still the best ever. To give you an idea, getting 53 of the 67 games called correctly, that is now the record. They've now said is the odds of winning the Powerball twice. So just wrap your head around that. The greatest bracketology picks ever, the ones that we've ever seen, was done by some dude who knew nothing about basketball, who did it half asleep while he was hopped up on Dayquil and NyQuil and God knows what else. He doesn't even remember doing the goddamn thing, and he still did not pick his Final Four correctly. He only got 1 right. He got nobody right in the finals, and even that, once they said was all said and done, was the mathematical equivalent of winning the Powerball twice. And some of you are probably upset today like, oh, I got busted day 1. It's fine. It's the fake smarty pants telling you that they had some program. They didn't. It's the, unfair confidence you get because I played basketball. I know basketball. You still do. It's goofy. It's nonsense. It's three-point line inclusion. It's the one and dones. It's the transfers. It's all the nonsense and chaos tried to be thrown together in all one big bottle, and nobody can actually predict this right. You can do a lot of things in your life that I'm sure you'll be very successful at. You will not pick the perfect bracket. We will see a lot of history made in our lifetimes. Picking the perfect bracket will not be one of them. It's okay. I almost want to pet you through the camera. It's okay, baby. You're still a very smart person. Don't worry about it. We will see history, though. And I'm going to stay in the tournament here for a second, but I do want to talk about this. I have a theory that I want to present to you guys. And basically my point is that stories and stars a lot of times in life will actually supersede the importance of a title or a championship. If you look at some of the biggest moments in sports history, a lot of times whoever won was irrelevant. It was a secondary thought. there are two events that are about to happen. One for sure, and one I'm pretty sure is going to happen, that are actually probably going to change sports forever and really have nothing to do with who wins the heavyweight championship or who wins the NCAA title. I'm going to call this the Tin Cup Theory, or Remember Your 12. And so this is from a movie that maybe some of y'all seen, maybe some of y'all haven't. But the quote, if you have, it's they'll remember your 12. Let me tell you what that means. Tin Cup was a decent rom-com made a while back. Kevin Costner plays this very talented but down-on-his-luck golf pro who had all the talent in the world but had a bad attitude and a self-sabotaging streak, but somehow with his girlfriend, inspiring him, miraculously got to the U.S. Open, and he was on the final hole, and he ends up shooting a 12 and losing the U.S. Open because he continually, stubbornly would not stop trying to make this 230-yard impossible shot over water, and then finally on his last ball in his last shot, I'm spoiling a lot here, but he makes the shot. He finally holds the shot. Now, he loses the U.S. Open, but he makes this incredible, unbelievable, one-of-a-lifetime shot, and the whole place is going apeshit, and everybody's celebrating, and then finally he stops for a second, and he's like, God dang it, I did it again. I just blew the U.S. Open. I cannot believe I cannot stop myself from doing stuff like this. I just blew the U.S. Open. Then his girlfriend comes running up and explains to him, they're going to remember your 12. 5 years from now, no one's going to remember who won or lost this tournament. What you did, they're going to remember forever. And when I first heard that, I got to be honest, I thought it was stupid. I thought it was horseshit. I'm like, winning's the only thing that matters. He blew the U.S. Open, da-da-da-da-da. It took me until I got older to understand how true and how important that quote is that a lot of times, not just in sports, but in life, it's not about that final thing. Sometimes you'll take a risk and do something, or something will happen that is so much more immortal than whoever won or lost. I mean, the fact is he lost that U.S. Open, but who cares? Because 20 years from now, no one's going to remember that. They're going to remember his 12. There's a couple examples of this that I can really bring to you, but I'm going to give you just a pop quiz in case you're doubting me. I'm like, Brent, you're being silly or philosophical or goofy. Is this your Buddhism kicking in? What the hell are you talking about? For people that maybe don't believe me that I want to present this theory, the idea that sometimes stars, stories, moments are more important than who won or lost, I got a pop quiz I want to give you here, and let's pop this picture up, Corey. I appreciate it. I'm going to give you 4 different examples, and I'm going to give you a pop quiz. If stars and stories sometimes don't supersede who won. In 1998, when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa had the famous home run chase, can you tell me right now who was in the World Series that year? In 1994, when Tanya Harding smacked Nancy Kerrigan on her poor leg, and then they went on to the Olympics, who won the gold medal? In 1973, this was made into a movie, Battle of the Sexes. Billie Jean King defeats Bobby Riggs. Who did Billie Jean King defeat that year in Wimbledon? 2017, for people saying that's too old, Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. They fought for the light heavyweight division with absolutely no titles on the line. Who was actually the middleweight champion at that time? And I'll give you the answers. I'll give you the spoilers. It was the New York Yankees versus San Diego Padres. It was Oksana Bayul that won the gold medal. It was Chris Everett that she defeated in Wimbledon. And then it was also Lara Hurd and then one of the Charlo brothers that was the champion. But I'll bet you didn't know that off the top of your head. I'll bet you a lot of that didn't know that. If I really, you can tell me now because you get to go back and tell me what you want. But most people can remember all 4 of those moments distinctly. I can remember Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. I mean, it saved baseball. I can remember the Tanya Harding thing. That was one of the hugest stories in the world. I can remember the Billie Jean Battle of the Sexes story being told to me and then seeing the movie with old Emma Stone there. I remember Conor versus Floyd. I don't remember who won a damn thing from those. I had to go Google all these. I was like, oh, that's right, the Yankees won. Oh, that's right, Oksana Bayul. Oh, that's right, it was old Chris Everett there. Oh, that's right, Charlo was the champion. Sometimes it's bigger than that. Sometimes they're just going to remember your 12. Do you kind of get what I'm trying to say here? I mean, those moments saved baseball. The other 2 that I talked about were made into movies. I mean, by the way, Academy Award winning and nominated actresses. I mean, the Tanya Harding movie starred Margot Robbie, and the Battle of the Sexes was Emma Stone. The Conor Floyd fight is the second most watched boxing match in all of boxing history, and not a goddamn one of those things had anything to do with a championship or a title. Sometimes they're just going to remember the 12. Sometimes history is made in that direction. So, with that being said, I have 2 different things that could, and one is going to, the other one might happen. And let me go ahead and lead off with that one because that's a big one to me. To quote-unquote remember the 12, something that could be bigger than whoever actually wins the NCAA tournament. There is an opportunity for the rematch. Caitlin and Angel. The Angel versus the Supergirl Part 2. And at first, I talked about this last week. I was a little upset because the Final Four bracket was not constructed to where they were going to meet in the Final Four. However, what I didn't know at the time was that LSU was going to drop to a 3rd seed. So what I think they did that was completely brilliant, and I'll explain to you why I don't just want to see this. I think they know that we need to have this game actually happen. So they put them actually in the same bracket, LSU the 3rd seed, Iowa the 1 seed, and so they can meet at the Elite 8 because now all LSU has to do is upset a number 2 UCLA to get it there. And if they're able to get that done, we will get our rematch not just very soon. It'll be on April 1st, April Fool's Day, which is kind of its own interesting little side note there. But the big thing here and the fun fact, and the reason I hope that they're actually planning on fixing this and making sure that this whole rematch happens, besides I want to see it, their television contract comes up next year. Very interesting. At first, I was pissed off. I was like, how could you not wait till the Final Four and make sure that all 4 of these girls get there within South Carolina, USC, LSU, and Iowa? But then realizing they're a 3 seed and that they could be out earlier, making sure that this happens, that this matchup at least happens in the Elite 8 is freaking brilliant because next year, ESPN's contract with their television is up. They are going to try to renew their television contract, and oh, what could be a more beautiful time than if the women, who I think could actually get this done because this rematch is that big. It's big. It could be LSU and Iowa, if they can make it to the Elite 8, I do think could actually beat any of the other ratings that even the women's division is going to have going to the Final Four in the NCAA championship, at least possibly. And if it actually does what I think it could do, which is at least beat the boys in the Elite 8, that is huge leverage for the women's division to now go back to ESPN, kick their feet up on the table, and go, yeah, you want to talk about maybe how much money you want to keep us around next year? Even though Caitlin will be gone, that is the best, bargaining chip that you can have, is that for the first time in history, we actually beat the boys at their own game. We beat the men's division in their Elite 8 ratings versus our Elite 8 ratings, and with that matchup, I think it can happen. I mean, you got to remember, these two, this was the hugest story of the world. The national championship just last year was the most watched women's game of all time in collegiate basketball. It was 9.9 million. It was only a few million less than the NBA Finals. And getting this rematch possible, which again looks like it should happen in UCLA, I'm sure you're a bunch of nice people, and I'm sure you're very talented women. If the NCAA doesn't do everything they can to screw y'all, I just give up on life because there is, maybe you have a nice story yourself. Nothing beats the story. Nothing really beats the story in sports right now. There's one other thing I'm going to bring up in a little bit that maybe supersedes it eventually. But right now and coming up very soon, I mean, even just the argument, Angel got so popular. If I could pop the video up of, thank you, Corey, of what happened. The quote unquote same energy that was given. After this was, in LSU, or before the LSU game, she does the "You Can't See Me." I can get off on a tangent about how much, I don't know if that's really just the same energy. I mean, Caitlin not only didn't do it to her, she did it to Haley Van Lith, who's now on the LSU Tigers. But, I mean, this was, a little half second. Angel, 3 times in her face, doing the ring, and everyone said, oh, it's the same energy. How dare you compare those two? No. And Angel eventually got the last laugh, and a lot of people really ran with it. Angel then went on to the White House. She has the biggest NIL money of all the women in collegiate basketball right now. There's all these wonderful things happen for Angel Reese and Caitlin, who continue to make history. Everybody knows the money's in the rematch. If I can get the last one up again. Sorry, I'm keeping my man Corey over here busy. If I can get that again, and if the women's division can get that again, that's huge. That could honestly beat the men. I'm not just talking shit. I'm not being woke. Let me give you at least kind of all the numbers about what we're dealing with here, because even just monetarily, I think this is why they have to go ahead and make sure that this happens, and they have to go ahead and screw UCLA if they have to and get this Elite 8 matchup April 1st, LSU, Iowa, because all they are paying right now for the women's broadcast is $34 million. To give you an idea, the men's division paid out by Turner and CBS there is at $1 billion. It's $34 million versus $1 billion. And the argument's been, well, dude, there's no eyeballs here. There's no ratings here. If we can get this matchup, if you look at what has happened, so again, they were at 9.9 at the championship game last season. Men's ratings are down. I mean, a lot of guys, we like to, act the way that we do sometimes. Let's keep it a buck here. The men's ratings in the NCAA tournament were down across the board. They were down 15% last year, and the championship game is now down over 50%, the highest it's ever been. The highest ever still is Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, 1979. But still, it's 14.7 million last year versus 35.1. And the women's division, because of Caitlin and Angel and a few of these other girls, is up like a bullet. It's up anywhere from 43 to 65%, depending on which game you want to go with. And their championship game was at 9.9 million, peaked at 12 million. That's the highest that it's ever been. The Elite 8 ratings that we have right now, the men is averaging 8.68 million last season. So let's say they keep it at that level. Let's say the men are actually able to keep it at 8.68 million. With this being the rematch, and everybody knows the rematch is always more fun than the first time. The first time's just kind of the wet your beak. The second time, knowing everything that we know, the addition of adding the little blonde Van Lith, the addition of adding a year of beef, and everybody kind of getting at it on social media and everything else, throwing that in together, if they made 9.9 in the championship, I think they could at least get close to that. I think with the right amount of, press and coverage, that they could at least get to 9 million. And if they get to 9 million because of these two stars, and they're able to actually say, we outshined the men, not just on different levels, not championship versus, Elite 8. We actually, Elite 8 to Elite 8, beat them in television ratings because we had the stars, we had the stories, and now let's talk about the fact that you're paying us only $34 million a year to broadcast versus $1 billion for the men. That's life-changing. That's history-changing. That is something that, again, whoever wins the title is almost secondary. If this actually goes down and gets what I think could happen, that changes the way that we watch basketball going forward for the rest of our lives. Who really cares who actually, gets past that and then continues to move on? They are going to remember the 12. Whoever wins the tournament this year, if we can get that matchup, we'll remember that, arguably more. I mean, it depends. Now, if Caitlin can get to Juju and then they get to a whole thing there, that could be enough. But if it's South Carolina versus, UCLA, I promise you it's not going to be the same amount of ratings. I'll bet my kidneys for freely. Corey, do you do surgery? Somebody can go ahead and take care of that for me. I will bet you my kidneys that if it's not at least Caitlin or Juju in the NCAA finals, that this will not just beat it, it will trump it. But the bigger question is that whether this can actually trump the men's television ratings at the exact same level, because that is a phenomenal difference in money. $34 million a year versus $1 billion a year. Your contract for your television is coming up just after this season is over, and they just happened to put those two in the same bracket, almost guaranteeing that they play each other. Do not tell me that's coincidence. That's actually a very brilliant thing, and it could be something that changes everything going forward from now till whenever basketball is done. So that's the first one I wanted to talk about as far as that's bigger than the title. Caitlin and Angel in the rematch, if we can get it done, is bigger than the title. And I can't wait to see it. And I'm going to be very curious if and when we get it done. Fix the game. UCLA, you got to lose. You got to go away. What will it be able to do in comparison to the men's? And could they make history beating them for the very first time? The second thing, this one we know is going to happen. There might be a question of where. There's still an issue with my state of Texas and everything else. But go ahead, if you can pop this one up for me, Corey, the showdown here. There we go. A lot of people are upset about this. A lot of people think this is silly. I'm telling you right now, and I want you to look at me with a straight face, this is going to destroy every ratings that we've ever had. When I tell you that 28-year-old versus 58-year-old Mike Tyson is going to change boxing forever, give me a second and let me explain, but I promise you that it's going to happen. Not just because of the intrigue, not just because of them, because of how and where they're doing it. I think that's a very interesting segue there to point out. It's not just who is fighting, it's how we're getting to watch how they're fighting and how you're going to be able to access it. I think is going to change boxing forever, and it will be the most watched of all time. It's not even going to be a close second to that being the most watched of all time. As I have highlighted one of the big parts of it in red there, this was a little tweet of the actual, fight coming out itself, but Jake on his Twitter even mentions this. This is a big key. This is not a pay-per-view. This is on Netflix. This is free to 260 million homes. 500 million plus homes have access to, honestly, one of the most interesting things you could ever tell me that I've ever wanted to see. People can try to say what they want. We're simple. We're simple creatures. People can try to act above that, oh, we don't, I'm too good for certain things. I'll tell you right now, if you told me with a straight face that there was two people having an unbelievably technical, wonderful debate about the future of politics in America going forward, and in the other room, I got two, blind fat people sumo wrestling in peanut butter, I'm going to go to peanut butter. I mean, you can say what you want to say, but in the end, there's just things that are interesting. And this is interesting. Right or wrong, this is interesting. A 58-year-old, psychotic, unbelievably interesting human being who's way past his prime, taking on a 28-year-old snobby-ass YouTuber everyone wants to see get knocked out, has no titles on the line, has no real, boxing, thing that we're going to see here. There's no technicality. There's no boxing skill that's really going to wow us or make us go, oh, my God, this is one of the greatest fights we've ever seen. And it is going to crush every single record on, as far as humanly possible, as far as eyeballs on a certain fight. And a lot of it has to do with the way that they did it. This is so smart to involve Netflix. And this is something I think is going to move forward the whole boxing world. Because like a lot of things we're finding out, dude, pay-per-view is the most outdated, overrated, needs to be changed system. And Netflix is a very smart way to go. Because also television's dying. Unfortunately, television's dying. Pay-per-view is dying. This idea that you want to have to pay a bunch of extra money and only have it on a certain stream. All of this kind of pain in the assery is just not going to continue and is already showing a lot of decline. Putting something that's just genuinely interesting to everybody and putting it on a platform that, like they said, has 260 million subscribers, over 500 million homes. And the big part of that is that anybody can access it anywhere. I mean, that's the coolest part of this, is even if you had only a 2% interest in watching this fight, I mean, you could watch it in a box, you could watch it in a box, you could watch it here or there in your underwear, you can watch it anywhere. I mean, you can just put it on your phone, and it's free. And not through one of those weird, apps you have to download where you end up getting a virus worse than the porn that you search and everything else. Like, for actual free on a Netflix app, I can tune in and watch Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight in Jerry World in Dallas, Texas, in front of 100,000 people, and at least one of them is probably most likely going to get knocked the F out. Okay, cool. I was watching, a cat playing with yarn for a minute here, but I can go ahead and check that out for 5 seconds. There's no way that doesn't genuinely, create interest there. So it's going to be July 20th, just so y'all know. Give you the deets real quick. July 20th is the schedule for it. It's going to be in Jerry World, again, free on Netflix. 58-year-old Mike Tyson at the time will be taking on 28-year-old Jake Paul with a 30-year difference between the two. But one of the 3 reasons I think this will be interesting is, again, the Tin Cup theory. The titles don't matter. Just so you know, and let's go ahead and put this graphic up. Again, as I'm trying to explain that I think people, like to pretend we're above it. You're not. This is one of the most recent ones I could find. The most watched top 10 boxing matches of all time. 4 of them had nothing to do with winning a heavyweight title, and a couple of them were complete nonsense. So if you look, I've checked them off for you. Floyd versus Conor had no titles on the line. No one, there was no anything going on officially. It was just interesting to watch shit-talking Conor take on crazy-ass Floyd and a UFC guy taking on a boxer. That's number 2 watched of all time. Right below that is KSI and Logan Paul. I mean, the 2 YouTube, completely non-boxers fought. That is the 5th most watched boxing match of all time. Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely, and Peter McNeely did a great job of selling that, by the way, with his stupid poetry, and I think he was actually, if he wasn't Forrest Gump, that level, he was close. Watching him get knocked out had no, real change in the boxing world, but watching Mike come back to box for the first time, beat up some Guido idiot, that was hilarious. And then you got Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones, which, again, two really old men who are way out of their prime fighting in a COVID, it was during COVID time. There was nobody in the audience. It was the 10th most watched pay-per-view of all time boxing-wise. So if I can get two 50-year-olds to get to 10, I can get YouTubers at 4. I can get Tyson versus an idiot at 8. And I can get Conor versus Floyd Mayweather, UFC boxing guy, at 2. There's no way that with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson going against each other, and it's free to just access on anybody who has a phone and Netflix, which most of us do, there's no way it's not going to crush every single one of these records. The other part that's interesting about this is it's just intriguing because, again, the age gap. If this was a fair fight, I don't think anybody has a problem saying that Jake Paul might get killed. I don't think enough people give Mike Tyson in his prime his due. I've heard a lot of people, and I remember this argument, it just drove me nuts. How many people would say things like, oh, I would take, a punch from Mike Tyson for $1 million. I would take a punch from Mike Tyson for $10 million. You couldn't enjoy it. I don't think y'all understand. Mike Tyson in his prime would kill you in one punch. If you have no boxing experience and you have no ability and you don't have, just the stiffest neck on the planet, if he lands and he's allowed, and just say you just caught him on the wrong day, which you can with Mike, and he decided to deck you as hard as he wanted to, he could kill you in one punch. Mike Tyson in his prime is arguably still, and I'll go back all the way to Jack Johnson, I'll go 100 years ago, maybe the scariest, fastest, just overall packaged fighter that the world has ever seen. And so if this was, meeting in some sort of Thanos, Marvel-esque timeline where they could both meet at 28, everybody knows Mike Tyson would probably honestly murder Jake Paul. The problem is he's 30 years past his prime. Jake Paul, as much as nobody likes him, myself included, has actually beaten some boxers. I mean, there are not a lot of people that are, the best. They're not in their prime, but he's already 9-1, and the one that he lost to Fury was at least honestly a close call. And Tommy Fury is from the Fury family. He's a decent boxer there. There's at least an argument because of also, too, his knockout power that Jake might be able to get him. That at 58 years old, that Mike Tyson, it's just father time. The problem is, if you watch, Mike Tyson is something different still at 58 years old. I got the video for that here, the training video. Do I have it? Did I not have the training video? That's the Jake Paul trolling video. That's another one. Did I not? I might have. I forgot to put it in. All right, you know what? Trust me on this. Just Google anybody and put Mike Tyson training at 57 years old. This dude is still getting it done. Mike Tyson still looks a lot like Mike Tyson. And versus Roy Jones Jr., he got tired at the end, but still, Mike can lay the wood. Mike Tyson is by far one of the most interesting, intimidating, still scary human beings at his late 50s. I got to interview Mike Tyson a long time ago. This was over the phone. Over the phone, he's an intimidating presence. Mike Tyson is somebody that is maybe the most fascinating person ever, but his aura and his presence, but if you watch still him train, he still has a lot of what he used to have. So it's split. It's 50-50 right now. A lot of people don't really know what to think. A lot of people, including fight experts, Rogan and Amir Khan, and some of these other big guys, a lot of people are predicting Tyson, but then Vegas, who, trust me, they don't do things just out of favoritism. A lot of people are picking Paul. It is a pure 50-50 split. So that always makes for a good fight. Even on the street, even if it's just two of your buddies and you're not sure which one can beat up the other one, it's fun to watch them go at it, much more than it is to watch something is going to happen. The most intriguing part about this is that we don't know what is going to happen, and we also don't know what mindset that Tyson is going to be in, because Jake is doing his job of selling the fight, but, Jake Paul, this might be the equivalent of biting off what you can't chew. And I'll give Jake Paul credit because he understands his role as far as, he's the bad guy, which is unique. Mike Tyson being basically universally the overwhelming good guy, if you know anything about Mike Tyson's past, is interesting to say the least. But I think most people, 99% of people I talk to, want to see Mike Tyson knock the snot out of Jake Paul. So Jake Paul and his brother, by the way, Logan, who now is actually in WWE, has learned something that's an important and valuable lesson in selling a fight and movies and everything else. The bad guy is just as important as the good guy. Certain movies like Suicide Squad, couple of the Batmans, a lot of the DC stuff, a lot of times their villain is what kills their entire movie. People will bitch about a lot of different stuff. If you don't have a good villain, there's nothing really for me to get excited about. If there's not a believable, annoying, I want to see this person lose on this side, the good guy is only so easy to root for, and there's really nothing to sink your teeth into. Jake Paul understands this. Jake Paul understood the assignment, and he is being the most condescending, goofy, trolling little prick that only Jake can. Now let's put this video up. This is Jake taunting Mike Tyson. I mean, it's working. It's working. I cannot believe he has the balls to put this up, but this is what he does. Watch this. This is crazy.
You heard it right, motherfucker. I'm fighting Mike Tyson.
Tattoos fake.
Man, I can't wait for the night of the 20th.
I'm gonna make you my girlfriend.
I'm gonna make Mike my girlfriend.
I'm gonna make sure you kiss me good with those big lips.
I'm just so glad to have the honor to step in the ring with one of the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champions there's ever been.
My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable.
He wants to rip your heart out.
I want to eat his children.
But on July 20th, I promise you, I'll come out victorious. And once I found out the fight was on, I had to tell my family members that Mike Tyson
Sign the contract, big boy.
he signed a contract.
I'm gonna fight Mike Tyson on Netflix.
This guy. This vato here.
Yeah. I fucking do it.
Baby. I fucking do it.
Oh my God! No
Oh,
way!
man.
Eat your ear. Better say the sorry.
So, yeah, mocking him, redoing some of his most famous quotes here. I mean, again, he understands the assignment. Y'all don't like me anyways. Let me just sink my teeth into the heel roll. He has done it. He is doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He is making every single one of us want to watch him get his ass kicked on national television, on Netflix, in front of the whole world to see with 100 millions watching. And once it actually happens, I'll get more into the other side of that too. I do think it's intriguing that Mike Tyson is actually, again, universally the good guy. That Jake Paul's done such a good job of being a shithead that Mike Tyson is the most maybe rooted for guy I've seen since like Hulk Hogan in the 80s. I mean, everyone wants to see Mike do his thing, and there's a whole rabbit hole I can get down on as far as, you know, what he did, what he didn't do, what he said. You know, famously, after he was put in jail, he did write to a reporter, I think a pretty telling quote, that he said, "I'm not in jail for what I was convicted for, but the stuff that they don't know about that I've done in my life is so much worse. I kind of deserve to be where I'm at." Mike Tyson, if you look up his history, is a bad dude. By the time he was 12, he would walk women across the street, grandmas specifically, knock them out, take their purse, in and out of juvie. I mean, everything you can think of that would create the most destructive and just toughest, you know, scariest fighting person that we've ever seen, you know, ever made by God. You know, some of that had to come from environment. Mike Tyson, every single environmental, you know, negative go against him. And, you know, there is a time, by the way, with his pigeons. I can tell you a whole story about when he was 8 years old. He was actually nonviolent, a bully, ripped the head off his pigeon. He was 13 years old. He put him in intensive care. I mean, there's a whole thing to get to of, like, it's so fascinating that because we all hate Jake so much that we've just elected Mike. This, like, yeah, go get him. Go kick his ass. It's, again, the final point being, it's just an intriguing fight. The fact that Netflix is putting this on their app for free, on their, you know, anywhere you could watch it, television, phone, computer, wherever you want to watch for free, is going to change the way that we watch boxing going forward. I truly do believe that the pay-per-view format is going to go the way of the dinosaur, and I think this fight will actually be the one that really helps kick that into gear, because there has to be ways to generate, you know, the 100, 200 million that pay-per-views can generate. If you have over 500 million people watching something, I mean, get less than $1 out of each viewer, you've already doubled what you did in a regular old school pay-per-view way of selling and doing things. You know, so I really think it can change the way things go forward that way. I just think it's going to be the most watched because it's very intriguing, and I also think it's going to be very interesting because we don't know. I really still don't know who I think can win that fight because there is a 30-year age gap between the two. And while one's a shithead, he has boxed much better than we give him credit for. And the other, while I love him and he is the mystique of Iron Mike Tyson, is 58 years old and did lose fights at the end of his career that a lot of people don't remember. That, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to watch. Definitely going to watch. And again, no title. Who gives a shit about a title? This is Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. I am locked in. You should be too. How much time am I looking at here? Are we doing okay? All right, so I still got plenty of time. Wow, all right, perfect. Let me just go ahead and end the podcast here with some videos. This is just some stuff I wanted to just kind of get into just for fun and just to react to it. So, yeah, I think I don't have the list on me. We were talking about Tin Cup in the golf movie. Anyways, let's go ahead and start off with those. This is a dude named Henny Otto. Before you play it, let me just preface, I've tried golfing, and it sucks, and it's frustrating, and I am shocked. This is apparently, there was the 19-year anniversary is how I got my hands on this. I am shocked more pro golfers didn't do what Henny Otto's about to do, because I would have done this so many times over 1,000. I mean, it is the most frustrating sport in the world. Even the greatest of all time never truly mastered it. Henny Otto did what I think a lot of us want to do, even in a professional setting. All right, we can go ahead and pop it on now. So go ahead and throw that in for me there. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is Henny here.
In Europe, where they sort of go with
Misses the putt. Sucks. And he's going to go a little Gilmore.
Taking the best of times, should we count that as a stroke, I wonder?
And, I mean, it's frustrating. Golf sucks, man. It's a frustrating, stupid sport made by idiots. So he tries again. Nah, shit. And he's going to try again. Ah, shit. Now he's just completely, he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't care anymore. This isn't a professional tournament. His whole, 4 rounds has gone to crap because he's just done what I would. I mean, I probably at this point would have picked up and kicked the ball, maybe tackled the guy next to me, started a fight. But, yeah, man, it's a frustrating sport.
He's a very good golfer, but he's hurt.
Yeah. I just thought that apparently that was the 19-year anniversary of that. I'm shocked more people don't do that. This one is a little different. This isn't a pro. This is an idiot. This is a cactus. And this is a guy who won't take just a stroke. Our buddies that won't let him, like, dude, it's clearly not a professional tournament. Just kick the ball over a little bit. He doesn't want to do that. He's a tough guy. He's a man. Here's how that worked out. Go ahead and click this one. Yeah. Giant cactus. There goes the club. And keep an eye. That's his hand. Look at his hand. That cactus is embedded in his hand. But you got to play it cool now. He's a dude. No, I'm good, bro. Oh, I'm good, bro. Let me see that one more time if you don't mind. Oh, this is so funny to me. Oh, I don't need to take a lie. I got this shot. Oh, broke my club to shit. And he's just, his entire hand is just cactus at this point. I can walk it off. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
What the?
Yeah, what the F? Gotta love men. What else do we do that's stupid? I think I had more of these. Oh. Showed this to my girlfriend, and she kind of chuckled. Because I think we're all guilty of this. Any guys ever played sports? You know you've done this. The announcers nail it. A guy and a girl, some baseball game somewhere, and I'll just let it go from there. We've all done this. Every dude.
He's telling her how he used to do it. Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, I threw that nasty curveball. Should have seen him. Had big rotation on it. Yeah, I'll show you pictures when we get back home. Got some video, too. It's black and white, but it's going to be great. You know what I mean?
She's not buying it either, is she? No.
Please stop talking.
You know what?
Please stop talking. Really? Yeah, I mean, I was great. You should say I could have gone pro, but I had an argument with a coach, and we didn't quite see eye to eye.
And a trick elbow got me.
He didn't like that I wore my hat backwards.
Yeah, I think most of us are guilty of this one at some point in time. If you made it anywhere past JV. Now, I did play at least some small college and stuff, but you're watching the game like, yeah, so-and-so, the way he needs to shoot the ball or do this or throw the curve, I probably would have gone pro if it wasn't for that freak accent or being, going on there. So anyways, you want to make out or what's up? You want to make out, talk about the curveball? Huh? I think most of us have been there. Most of us have been there. Maybe this will get you laid instead. This is something I got to keep, let me preface this since I got a little time anyways. SNL actually made some skits about this guy. This dude is a legend. His name is Don West. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, Don West and QVC back in the day, baseball cards and selling cards online was huge. And nobody sold it better than Don West because he just made it every single thing that he sold. He could be selling literally a piece of cardboard and be like, we're going to sell this, I think, at $10,000. We're selling it for what? $29.99. Are you out of your mind? We're going to go out of business. And so Will Ferrell ended up making fun of it. But this is just even better. I mean, not only are Topps baseball cards on QVC a good deal, according to the legendary Don West, they're going to get you laid. Who hasn't been in that scenario? Go ahead and hit that for me, if you don't mind.
You're the real deal. You're picking up chicks. Yeah. Let me tell you something. You buy this set at $39.99, baby, you're the cock of the walk, man. You walk into the bar and you just find the hottest chick and you go, you, me. Guess what? She says, why would I go out with you? Because I bought the deal on Wild West Deals for $39.99. That's why. She says, can I go home with you?
Yeah.
That's how simple it is.
That's how
it works. That's what this set brings to the table.
I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I'd mentioned my Topps baseball card collection getting me in just a sea of just sexual activity, I'd have a lot of quarters and probably a couple dimes. I don't know if I'd have any nickels, but apparently I didn't get the right deal. I didn't go for the, $39.99. I mean, that's a hell of a deal. $39.99, get you laid, man. It'll get you laid. Just mention that. Next bar you go to, mention your baseball card collection. See if they can even keep their clothes on. Yeah. What else did I have here? Let me see. Oh, okay. Last one, and I got to call it a day. I'm guilty of this. I think a lot of us are guilty of this. You feel bad about your life, your day. I've been kind of in a mood over the last few days. I'm like, oh, is this podcast going to suck? Am I any good? Da-da-da-da. And what's my life about? Da-da-da-da. Sometimes I need a video that just kicks everything back into perspective. I'm going to end on this because sometimes you just need something to remind you that, dude, really? You want to complain? Want to bitch about your life? How about if you're a paralyzed man in a third world country whacking coconuts with your dead leg for entertainment? Because that's what I'm about to show you. Your life sucks, huh? You've had a rough day, been a rough time, fighting with your girlfriend, job not working out. Go ahead and play this for me here. Really? Tell me how hard your day is again. Oh my God. I have 1,000 questions that I'm not going to get any answers to. But I mean, what? This man apparently, for entertainment, probably for some money, cracks coconuts. I guess he doesn't feel it. But I mean, that's what he does. That's what he does for his day. Tell me again how bad your day was. Did you get in a fight with your boss? Aw. Girlfriend make you sleep on the couch? Did she? Did she really? Do you have to whack fruit with a dead leg on the street in order to make enough money to eat? I don't think so. And I know that's extreme, and I sometimes hate when people do that when they give me like, oh, they're starving children. I needed it because I was really in my own kind of bullshit and depression and feelings a little bit about, I don't know if things are going to happen. And then I saw that. I was like, oh, that's right. There's people that actually go through a lot of things that are a lot worse than what I go through. I still have 1,000. I don't know why or where or what that was other than world's a crazy place. Sometimes you don't know what to do. I know what I got to do, though. I got to say goodbye. Talk to you next time. Love you.